After much anticipation, Malfoy Manor has finally become a real LEGO set, giving us what I think has to be the darkest and most violent LEGO set to ever exist. And personally, I could not be more excited for this. Malfoy Manor is set 76453 and retails for 150 US dollars, 250 Australian and 130 Great British pounds. The set contains 1,601 pieces and comes with 9 minifigures. Starting off, we have Vernon Dudley, who is a brand new minifigure with a glorious looking face print and a brand new torso print. I love how the graphic designers depicted Harry's swollen face. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. However, his alternate face is just the standard Harry Potter face that we have gotten many times before. Next up is Hermione, featuring a brand new torso and the same head and hairpiece that we have seen for Deathly Hallows Hermione before. The set also comes with Voldemort, featuring a brand new torso and face print, but I'm really confused, one, as to why he's even in this set, and two, why he's smirking so much. I just feel like I've never seen Voldemort with this face before, so it really does not make sense to me. And personally, I'm not a big fan of him being in this set. I would have much rather seen Ron Weasley than him. In a similar fashion, we have Lucius Malfoy, who I am glad is in this set and makes way more sense than Voldemort, but if we had to sacrifice a figure, I would also sacrifice him in order to have Ron in this set. That aside though, this is a really nice version of Lucius Malfoy, and he finally gets a different looking face to the one that we have seen previously. And making a return for the first time ever, we also have Narcissa Malfoy, who they've gone for a pretty similar hairpiece to her original one here, and then just reused the pretty common Padme face for her here. It works, but I also would have loved to have seen a slightly different one with a bit more of an accentuated cheekbone. It wouldn't be Malfoy Manor though without Draco as well, but this version to me is such a major downgrade. A few years ago, LEGO ended up making a unique face print to Draco, which was just so much better than the one that they have reverted back to. It is such a shame because I know that that face exists, and I just don't know why they decided to put him in this old classic and really basic one. I just feel like it doesn't really represent him to me. The same cannot be said, however, for Bellatrix, who has finally gotten her own custom face print. This makes the biggest difference ever on her character and looks absolutely fantastic. I love the dark red lip and her bold, menacing eyebrows. Her facial expressions as well, I just think are fantastic, and it goes really well with her brand new torso print, and I also love how they've made it match up with that really simple coattails printing. Next up, we have Dobby, who is a really big shock that he was even included in this set. I just thought it would be too dark to include him, given that he does quite literally die at the end of this scene, but I'm really glad to see him nonetheless. He comes along with some dual molded legs, since he did have his very cute boots on at this point, although I do recall them being red in the movie, so it's kind of odd to see that they've just gone for these brown ones, but I think that is simply because the piece already existed. And last but certainly not least, we have Luna Lovegood, who has a really cool blonde recoloring of this hair from LEGO Friends. I absolutely love her outfit, but much like Draco, I'm left wondering where her custom face print went. Though that being said, I think the scared expression of this face does work really well given the context of this scene and the fact that she has been trapped in the dungeons for quite a long time now. However, it just doesn't feel like Luna Lovegood to me with such a thick black eyebrow. Overall, I'm feeling quite mixed with the minifigure selection. I'm really glad that we got quite a large number of figures, but so many of them have just left me really confused. My biggest complaint is that Ron wasn't included, and I feel like we very easily could have swapped out quite a number of characters in order to get him in there instead. And whilst she's not a minifigure, Nagini is also included in this set. However, it is the version with no eye printing, which is a little bit disappointing. And whilst I was let down a little bit in the minifigure department, I am so glad to say that I did not feel the same way when it came to the actual set itself. Much like a lot of LEGO sets recently, I do think the price point of 150 US dollars for this is quite steep, just given the overall size and value that I feel like this build brings. However, I really enjoy this set in its playset style. Alongside the main building of the house, you get two small side builds, starting off with the little gate to Malfoy Manor. This was such a neat inclusion, and one of my highlights of this build was the inclusion of these little gargoyle pieces right up the top that were reused from the Wednesday sets, and overall, I really like the way that this was built. The texture on the pillars is really neat, and I love the fact that we were able to include some resemblance of the hedges and foliage around Malfoy Manor in the form of these tiny little trees on the side, and while this entire thing is just a mirror image of one another, I think it is a really fun complement to the set. I can't say the same though for this second build, which is just these two random white birds on a perch. I guess there was a few extra pieces lying around that they could have included, but let's talk about the main build itself, the structure of Malfoy Manor. Now overall, given that this is a playset and is quite a small small scale, I feel like LEGO did an amazing job of capturing the shape of Malfoy Manor. I mean, ideally there should be 2 extra sections on the sides, but I feel like this works perfectly fine. Given the scale, I feel like the exterior as well has a lot of amazing detail, and my really only complaint about the exterior is that I wish the color scheme was a little bit different. In a lot of the shots from the movie, it is hard to tell what the actual color scheme of the building is, since Malfoy Manor is always just looking dark and gloomy, and I'm glad that they didn't go for a dark bluish gray, but I feel like a light bluish gray and sand green would have worked a little bit better, especially since they did end up using quite a lot of light bluish gray on the inside. I think it would have blended everything together a little bit more, but I do think that the dark tan and green works. It just doesn't look quite as dark and menacing as I feel like Malfoy Manor probably should. And whilst I'm definitely gonna have this on display from the exterior, the interior of this set is equally as impressive in my eyes. Despite this being a very skinny build, there is so much going on, and I really commend the designer's use of space when it comes to this set. There are several tiny little rooms depicted, with the main attraction being the giant Malfoy Manor ballroom. Starting off at the bottom, there are 2 prison cells. Now, whilst in the movie it is one really big prison cell, I think they did a pretty good job of trying to reflect that in a building that doesn't necessarily give you the space to do that. One side is decorated with a leaky barrel, and then the other represents a kitchen. Now, whilst at this point in the story Dobby is a free elf, it's really fun to kind of look at this and imagine that he was creating meals for the Malfoys here whilst under the family servitude. Moving up, and we have a Slytherin bed, which I assume is going to be Draco's bedroom, and then on the other side there is a nice little toilet. On the very top level there is a little black armchair and a candlestick, and then on the other side is a grand organ. And now, whilst I don't ever recall the Malfoys playing the organ, I feel like it works, and given that the Malfoys are quite a grand, rich family, it just makes sense. They also included 2 main staircases that can swivel around and lead you up into the main ballroom. Now, this area is quite fun because you can depict both the Death Eater meeting at the beginning of the Deathly Hallows, as well as the duels that happen at the very end of the Deathly Hallows Part 1 in the Malfoy Manor scene, or Malfoy Manor chapter if you're referring to the books. Both of which are equally dark scenes, and both of which take place in this set, which is pretty fun. Now, the set does give you enough chairs for all of the Death Eaters included in this set to be sat at, which is really neat, and then if you take them all off, you can actually see that there is a tiled off version of the dark mark hidden on the floor. I absolutely love this detail, and the fact as well that you can take off everything I feel like works really well for the imaginative play and dollhouse aspect of this set. And one of the most shocking and funny and best parts of this set as well is that you can even drop the chandelier on Bellatrix like you can in the movie. So it's quite commendable to me that LEGO included every single character who gets attacked, tortured, or maimed or seriously injured in this set, as well as the people who are maiming, attacking, and torturing those people. Not something you see every day, but given the context of this scene, I feel like they did all need to be there. But to drop the chandelier, all you need to do is pull out this Technic pin and the whole thing will come crashing down. So besides being able to replicate a lot of injuries, removing the table allows you to see some really neat details on this back wall here. Firstly, there are these 2 large portraits which are stickered panels, and then in the middle there is a really nice decorated fireplace. The build is relatively simple and just utilizes a lot of those telescope pieces, but I think it works really well. And whilst there's not a lot of space to actually interact with each room itself, the fact that this is such an open plan set I really feel like is great and reminds me a lot of how I used to play with sets as a kid. Since Harry Potter is a really popular theme with both adults and kids, I feel like LEGO did a really good job at balancing both the playset and display aspect of this build. Looking at the way that LEGO designed this, I just know that if this came out 15, 16 years earlier, I would have absolutely eaten this set up as a kid, and even as an adult, its super slimline design is going to be perfect to fit on my shelves. In my eyes and my taste, I feel like this build is almost perfect. The real issues with this set, in my opinion, come down to the minifigures. I feel like so many corners were cut, and with Harry Potter and the fact that these pieces are already out there, it is really disappointing to see. This could have been an easy 10 out of 10 in my eyes, but those minifigures really let this set down for me, so I'd have to give it a 9 out of 10. But if you're a fan of LEGO Harry Potter, you definitely have to pick up this set, whether you're a new fan or an old fan. I feel like this is such a fun model. But those are all my thoughts, so let me know what you think about this set down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below, and until next time, I'll see you later.